You're listening to the Spend 10K a Day podcast, brought to you by the performance marketing experts at Mute 6. This is your source for cutting-edge insight into the world of online advertising from the team with more Facebook case studies in 2016 than any other agency on the planet. Here are your hosts, Steve Wise and Stuart Anderson.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Spend 10K a Day podcast. Today we have an awesome guest, Arjun Ohri from ShopMessage. This podcast today is dedicated to generating new customer acquisition from Facebook Messenger. And we have one of the leading experts. You know, ShopMessage is an app inside the Shopify store, and it's one, we love it. It's brand new, and I'm excited to pick the brain of Arjun. Arjun, tell us a little more about yourself, ShopMessage, et cetera, et cetera.
Hey, Steve. Hey, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be on this podcast. So, my name is Arjun Ohri, and I'm from ShopMessage, and I can tell you a little bit about my background and just get right into Messenger. So, first of all, a little bit about me. I'm actually the CEO and one of the co-founders for a company called FanRock. We started about 4 years ago, and my partner and I, before then, we had worked at Zynga, and before then worked at Microsoft and Facebook. So we had seen how, through our experience at Zynga, making games like Words with Friends and Farmville and Cityville, we'd seen that it was definitely possible to build an entire business on top of Facebook. And Facebook was a great platform to get lots of users, get ongoing engagement, and virality. So, that was a little bit of our background. And 4 years ago, we left Zynga to start an e-commerce company. So we're selling all sorts of items from apparel to jewelry to pillows and mugs, anything you can print on. And we became experts in Facebook advertising. So that's how we got our start in e-commerce about 4 years ago, building on the Shopify system. And, that business, it's been a lot of fun to run. These days, it's kind of running on autopilot. We have some members of our staff who are running it. And what our team is really mostly excited about is the future of e-commerce. We think we're still in the early days of e-commerce. And it just so happens that we're at this time where it's relatively easy to get your product in front of a whole bunch of users on Facebook. So that's really what we built our business around. So one of the things that we noticed as part of our business was that it's really important to take advantage of some of the new channels that Facebook has to offer.
What are some of the new channels that you guys are currently focusing on Facebook?
Sure. So the biggest channel that we're seeing right now is going to be Messenger. And I will say, just to give a little bit of context, before Messenger, the biggest channels were things like the Facebook news feed. And even before that, I'm talking, 4 or 5 years before then, was things like Facebook requests and also the news feed in terms of getting your app or your product out there in front of a lot of people. So nowadays, it's absolutely Messenger. And the writing's just been on the wall. I can talk a little bit about how pervasive Messenger is. Facebook is obviously investing a lot of money behind Messenger. They already have more than 2 billion users, and they're really taking the model of some of these apps from Asia, where you see messaging apps are entire platforms in and of themselves. And within Messenger apps, you can do everything from chat with your friends to order food to check into flights and all sorts of different interactions. And now there's a huge opportunity to bring that same kind of behavior to the US.
And how do you guys use Messenger to drive customer acquisition? I mean, a lot of people talk about bots, about post-purchase bots. Like when you purchase, Shopify's integrated, and you're able to do a messenger bot to say thank you for purchasing. Do you have any questions? How do you just give us a little background on how you think of Messenger from a new customer acquisition perspective?
Sure. So I'll start with saying that the part of the vision of Messenger that not just Facebook but also Apple and Google are really kind of emphasizing is 3 to 5 years from now, most of the way where consumers interact with the brand is going to be through Messenger. So whereas previously it was through the phone or going to a website to interact with the customer service agent there, it's going to be over Messenger. And a little bit, there's a bit of a difference of how this has come to be. A couple of years ago, people were talking about Messenger, but it was in a different way. People thought that customers are just going to be typing and you would have some sort of artificial intelligence or natural language processing on the other end that's just going to respond as if it was a human. But now a bit later, we're realizing that that's not quite the interaction that people want. People actually, so Facebook has built Messenger to have really rich interactions, things like pictures and buttons, really context-aware menus. So that way, no one's actually sitting there typing messages on their cell phone, but they're just navigating through menus that are constantly changing. Now, to answer your question about how do you use Messenger for user acquisition, more broadly right now, Facebook and Instagram, social media, it's all getting harder to do purely arbitrage, which means that now you need to actually have a great product. After you bring people in, you need to give them a great experience, a way to reach them on an ongoing fashion, so that even if they don't purchase on the very first visit, perhaps you'll start a relationship with them, and over time you can build their trust, and customers will make a purchase down the line. And people have already been doing this with email. So if you think about when you enter your email to get a discount on an e-commerce store, and then you're automatically entered into welcome sequences, you're going to see that a lot of that same kind of interaction for Messenger.
So what you're saying is that's really interesting. So the way you look at Messenger right now is you look that Messenger could possibly either replace or be in collusion with email. So Messenger could replace email 5, 6, 7, 8 years from now as the main retention device to driving more sales or higher LTVs, correct?
Absolutely, and the data will support that too. You're looking at open rates for emails and click-through rates for email just getting lower and lower. There's just so much competition, there's so much noise, but with Messenger, you don't have that yet. Currently, Messenger has more than 2 billion users, and they're used to using it with their friends. And so that's why we're seeing for our messages and for all of our clients, they're seeing 80 to 90% open rates. And then they're seeing like 70 to 80% click-through rates afterwards. So that if somebody's genuinely interested in your product, this is a great way to reach them and actually get inside their inbox that they actually check.
So what you're saying is that once someone makes a purchase or if you want to stay in touch with your customers, 70, 80% open rates on Messenger. Maybe that's because not a lot of people are using Messenger still. It's still a brand new communication device, correct?
Yeah, that's a big part of it. Once a lot of brands start using Messenger, then you might see that number come down because there's going to be a lot more competition. But, since we're comparing it to email, maybe we can talk about some of the other ways that how Messenger compares to email.
Sure.
So first of all, so I would say there's two main advantages of using Messenger to reach your customers as opposed to email. And we already talked about one, which is as a channel, there's just more engagement. You talked about the 80 to 90% open rates and then the 70 to 80% click-through rates. So that's really high. But also another advantage is the opt-in, the process of getting the permission to send to somebody is significantly easier than on email. On email, somebody has to type in their email address, which everyone knows on a mobile phone can be pretty hard, it can be cumbersome, and you get a pop-up dialogue, and there could be mistakes. But with Messenger, you can just have one button that just opts you in, and you can actually have that happen in the flow of your site. So when somebody clicks add to cart or when somebody wants a discount, it can just be one button. There's no scary pop-ups. There's no typing in an email address.
That's really interesting. That's an amazing point. So literally one of the main retention ways you could do is you could actually put a button on your website to opt someone into receiving your Facebook messages, correct?
Correct. And I'm saying you can even go beyond that. So what ShopMessage actually does is it adds that checkbox to a product page. So if somebody really likes a product and they show interest in it by adding it to their cart, as soon as they click that add to cart button, they're automatically opted in. And there's a checkbox that from Facebook below that add to cart button. So they can choose if they want to uncheck that box, they won't get messages. But by default, even Facebook chooses to keep that checkbox pre-checked.
So messages from your specific fan page, correct? What are the limitations? So let's say you add the shop message box to the page, and then someone's clicking through your site, they opt into it. What are the limitations that Facebook allows, and how many times you can message this person?
Yeah, it's a good question. So Facebook is relatively liberal about you sending a message to you can send messages to the customer within 24 hours. But they restrict you on the amount of messages that you can send afterwards. Technically, you're only allowed a single message after 24 hours. And of course, you can that that timeline always resets if you get customers to engage. So if a customer responds to you, or even if they click a button, then that window resets. And the way we look at this, just in our experience developing on top of Facebook for the last many years, is Facebook wants to be really protective of this channel. They don't want Messenger to all of a sudden just be flooded with a bunch of marketers sending people promotions. They want to keep this as a channel that's meant for engagement and really high value interactions. So that's why they're really going to be policing the sends, and they're giving easy ways for customers to mark the messages as spam.
So I guess one of the strategies could be for new user acquisition is to put the shop message button into like your product pages, and then start optimizing your campaigns around people opting into the messenger. Then start using Facebook Messenger as a way to drive value. Correct? Would that be a good strategy as a way to leverage Shop Messenger?
Yeah, that is a good way to do it. But I just want to clarify that there's no separate shop message button to log in. And in fact, what Facebook wants is that Facebook wants developers to add that checkbox within other existing flows. So just to give you an idea, Shopify already does this with their native integration with Facebook Messenger, which is if somebody is about to make a checkout, someone's trying to make a purchase, at the very last stage, there's a checkbox that's pre-checked that allows you to get an order confirmation and a shipping notification through Messenger when you go through the purchase. And so that's triggered by the purchase button. So our innovation was, okay, that's already very far down the funnel, and you can't really do anything else with those users afterwards. You cannot send them a message about something else that they might like, and you cannot send a message for a product being restocked or getting a review from them. It's very limiting. So what our innovation was is let's actually take that checkbox, the opt-in, and let's put it much higher in the funnel at the add to cart. And so there's actually a really big point of balance there, because what you don't want to do is just have every site visitor be opted in, and now you're just sending messages to every single person who comes to your site. That would be bad, because a lot of people are going to get messages that don't really show a lot of interest. But by linking it to the add to cart button, you know that the customer trusts the brand enough and is interested in the product enough to actually add it to the cart. And that way we actually don't see very many negative signals at all from customers who receive these messages.
So once the user adds to cart on Shopify, then there's a button. Then that's where the button lives. So the strategy is put the opt-in button through Shop Message next to the add to cart, so that you could personalize the experience. So basically, they add this product to the cart, they're going to get this specific message whether they buy or they don't buy. Correct?
Exactly. And specifically for the add to cart scenario, the customer will only get the message if they don't buy. And the message will actually be personalized with the actual product and the exact contents of the cart that the customer had before they left. So that way they'll see all these pictures in their messenger, and they'll have an easy way to just complete that checkout from their phone.
Wow, that's amazing. That's better than email. That's because no one's doing it. Like I've never, I've been on so many Shopify sites as a consumer, and I've never once received a message saying, "Hey, we saw you bounced off the shopping cart. Come back with this discount code." That's incredible. So tell me about some of the conversion rates you've seen from just from integrating this simple tool into your checkout.
Yeah, so when we first did it with one of our own brands that we manage, we found that the results were really amazing. We were seeing that on a given day, between 5 and 10% of overall site-wide purchases were actually attributable directly to this new flow. And we found that has actually continued across all of the brands that we've been working with. So on a given day, 5 to 10% of all of the orders are going to come from a customer receiving one of these messages, clicking checkout, and completing that checkout as a direct result of Shop Message. So, and that's actually been possible without any additional spend on advertising. So sure, maybe that 5 to 10%, there may be some cannibalization there. Like for example, maybe there's somebody who they may have clicked on that abandoned cart email, or it may have come back anyways. But this is still relatively conservative, because it's just people who literally receive the message and click checkout specifically from there.
Cool. So talk about what are some strategies as far as the messaging on the Shop Message once they bounce off the shopping cart. So let's say we're setting this up on our e-commerce store. Obviously, we're putting it next to the add to cart, and it's filtering out only people who don't actually check out, get this message. What are some of the strategies? Is it just discounting? Like, what are some of the messenger strategies that you're using to get these people back? And is it a conversation, or is it just a one-off message on Messenger?
Yeah, there's been a lot of testing that we've done on this specific thing, and we found that there's a few things that lead to high conversion. Okay. Number one is making sure the conversation feels very informal. You wouldn't send a message to a friend on Messenger that has a whole paragraph. Instead, what you would do is send a bunch of shorter messages. They might not even be complete sentences. You would use emojis, make it feel really, really personal. So that's the first thing, because already customers feel like the Messenger is a real social place, and they want to make sure that if a brand is going to come in, it doesn't sound too corporate-y or too much like a template.
Whoa, that's a knowledge bomb right there, man. That's something I wasn't even aware of. So let's just go into that. So obviously, if you ever do Messenger, any type of retention on Messenger, make the messenger look and feel like it's from a human being. Emojis, short, maybe misspellings, maybe just make it kind of look like this is someone typing while they're in their car, while they're on the toilet, something like that. Think of all the places that you're typing your messenger. You're always busy. You're on the move. So that's a really good strategy, man. I never thought about that.
Totally. And the things about Messenger is it actually gives you even more flexibility there. Like, for example, how when you're typing with a friend and you'll send them a message, or if they're sending you a message, then you can actually see them typing, and it has that little cloud with those dots. Yeah. So that's what makes Messenger feel alive. That's what makes it feel like there's someone on the other end actually typing. And you can actually have those same sort of typing delays within ShopMessage and any sort of bot that you're using to communicate with people on Messenger. So that's what really feels like there's a person on the other end, and it feels like a more personal conversation.
So how hard is it to integrate ShopMessage into your current flow? I mean, how long? Just take me step by step. How do you? We have a lot of viewers who are obviously very excited about the opportunity of ShopMessage. A lot of listeners, should I say? How easy is it, man? Just run it by. Like, all right, first you do this, then you do this, then you do this. Like, run it by.
Sure. So ShopMessage is actually really easy to install. It actually can take you 5 minutes or less. So the first thing you do is you can go to the ShopMessage website or go to the Shopify app store and just search for ShopMessage. And then as soon as you get it, you just type in your store name. So now your store will be connected with Shopify. And then it'll ask you to log in with Facebook and connect your Facebook page. And that's important because all of the messages on Messenger, they're going to come not from ShopMessage, but they're going to come actually from your brand on whatever page you choose. So you need to make sure you connect your Facebook page. And then we walk you through customizing the templates, and we've pre-populated them with the most, what we found to be the most effective templates, just very short and to the point. Did you leave something behind after 30 minutes? And then after 24 hours, saying your cart is about to expire. So you can customize those messages if you want to, or you can leave them as is. And we highly recommend putting in a discount. We see all of the brands that have the most success, they put in a discount basically right away from the 30-minute from the 30-minute message. And there's a few strategies you can have there. And some brands like to have maybe no discount for the 30-minute reminder, and then they'll give you a discount at the 24-hour reminder if you don't actually make the purchase.
So most brands do two messages within 24 hours. They have one within 30 minutes, another one within 24 hours, and you have a templating system that literally, will be in, it's all set up already, based on the specific templates you've tested out. Do you do anything based on time or holiday templates? Do you have any like testing methodologies? Have you played around with like just timing and just integrating kind of like time sensitive information, like it's the holidays coming up, Halloween and stuff like that? Can you have like different automations set up in there, like for Halloween?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll say, first off, if you just want the basic ShopMessage integration, everything I've described so far is all you need to do, and then you're done. So you don't really have to type in much, but you can be all set up in 5 minutes. But under the covers, we've actually built a pretty robust system that, and similar to things like Klaviyo or MailChimp, have concepts of triggers and flows and conditions and audience segmenting. So it's a really robust system, so you can set up even complicated flows if you like. So what that means is that you'll be able to set up things like if there's a holiday-specific product, you can have a holiday-specific message. Or if a cart is above a certain value, you can give a different kind of discount. Or if they got a specific product that you have more room in terms of margin, maybe you give a different discount. You give a higher discount than one of the other products.
So our readers or our listeners are they love hacking. They're very into figuring out, everyone on our base, everyone's trying to spend over $10,000 a day profitably on Facebook. We work with a lot of people listening are large-scale media buyers. So this is going to help allow our audience to spend more profitably because now they're getting more and more out of that add to cart, that user who add to cart. So going into these strategies that are more, that are more granular of, if they have this amount of add to cart value, then they get this message. If this specific holiday message. Tell us about how your integration. You obviously probably have a pretty crazy integration with ShopMessage. How is yours set up? And then maybe we could take it from there because it's really interesting.
Sure. So before we roll everything out to just the general public, we always make sure we test it first of all in our stores and with just a handful of beta testers to make sure that all the functionality works. And actually, you'd be surprised. What we find is the most valuable things to add is actually additional sequences. So everything we've been talking about so far is just about abandoning cart. And actually, we find that the most important the biggest factors are the timing. So we've tested 30 minutes, 4 hours, 24 hours, and even 48 and 72 hours. And so we found that basically the best timing is after 30 minutes because you want to send the message as soon after the customer abandons their cart. So that's what we found. So keep it at 30 minutes. But you're asking for other hacks that we do. And so the main hacks are things like adding a welcome sequence and adding other sorts of sequences. So things like after a customer purchases, then you give them a welcome sequence based on the product that they bought. So you welcome them to your store. You give them information on how long it's going to take to get their product. You can give them a discount for the next purchase. And based on what they purchased, you can show similar products. So that's actually a huge opportunity because now it's not just about using ShopMessage to acquire the customer for the first time, but it's about re-engaging with them in the future. That's and awesome. Here's another, here's something that's really important. We talked about you don't want to use Facebook Messenger as a way to just blast everyone all the time. That'll get you marked as spam. But what we found is if you make the actions every single day feel like they're personal and just give a really easy way for the customer to engage, then that resets the window. So the example is something like you can say, hey, do you want to see this cool discount? And you give your customers a button saying like, yeah, sure, show it to me. And so they'll click that button and they'll get the discount. And now you have the ability to send them for the next 24 hours.
So explain how this works. So you said, I'm trying to rationalize this in my brain. So if they re-engage with you, then after 24 hours, then you could keep messaging them, correct?
Exactly.
So what is that exactly? Like, how do they re-engage with? Like, how do they say yes, I want to re-engage?
Yeah. So according to Facebook's policies, what they don't want is for a bunch of brands to just start sending customers messages on Messenger all the time, and the people on Messenger don't open it, they don't click on it, they don't respond, they don't do anything. So Facebook does not want that kind of interaction. So that's why they say that as soon as a customer opts in or they get started or they send you a message as a store, then the store can send them messages for up to 24 hours and one additional message after that 24 hours. So that means if the store sends those messages and the customer just never responds, never clicks on any of the buttons, then technically it's against Facebook's terms of service. It's against their policies to continue to send them messages.
So you could say something like, after a 24-hour message could be, yes or no, you want to receive this cool new product, or yes or no, you want this discount. Everyone will be like, yeah, I want it, whatever. And then now you have another 24 hours to play with that user, correct?
Totally. And in fact, you can make the messages a lot more fun. You can say like, hey, you want to hear a secret? And then you can have the button say, yeah, tell me. And then that lets you continue the conversation even more. And that's important for two reasons. One is it extends the time frame for your being allowed to send the messages. And B is then you actually can figure out who your most engaged customers are. because those are the people who are actually clicking on your messages. They want to know the secret. They want to know what the next discount is. And those are the people who are much more likely to respond if you're sending them a discount or an offer to make a purchase.
Can you create, like similar how you do with Klaviyo and some of these other email service providers, can you create custom segments based on how people reply to your Facebook messages yet, or is that not a feature that Facebook is? I've never heard anyone do that. Usually, I'm the first one when I hear about new features, I jump on it, but I've never heard of being able to, create audiences around Messenger yet.
So that's exactly what people are doing.
I didn't know that. Interesting.
Now sequences can be a lot richer because based on someone's response, you can have them see one sequence versus another. So that's really great because
if you create an audience you create a Facebook custom audience, a website custom audience around people you're talking to on Messenger specifically.
Yeah, it won't be a website custom audience, but you can within the Messenger tool, or in our case within ShopMessage, you'll be able to actually segment those users, saying everyone who clicks yes on this answer gets to see one sequence, and everyone who clicks no sees another one.
All right, I'm sorry, you just have so many interesting features. I'm just trying to just go into each one of them. So now, you could create segments. So there's two different ways of using Shop Messenger. Number one, acquisition. I've never bought before. I'm going to put a button, near the add to cart. I think we all get that. That's amazing. It's a great feature. But number two, now, you could actually create custom flows based on how people are replying to your message. So you can actually create custom segments on the back ends of retention, correct?
Exactly. And what I wanted to put... Sorry, continue.
No, just go, man. Take it away, man.
What I wanted to, and it seems like you and your audience is really well aware of how to do these kinds of flows, these email flows in email software, things like Klaviyo or in MailChimp or whatever they happen to be using. But what I want to just point out is how do you take that existing knowledge and kind of map it over to the new Messenger interactions? So there's a few differences. One is with email, you don't really have much feedback on what someone does. You can send them a different segment based on whether they opened the email or whether they clicked on something, but you get a lot less interaction on email. But with Messenger, you're getting a lot more interaction, and you can show things like buttons, images, videos. You can show menus, and so it's a lot easier to really send customized, personalized sequences for every user based on how they're responding.
Yep. Interesting. So pretty much how many segments deep do you go? Obviously email has its own mappings, but how deep do you go for your current messages on the back ends of retention? You obviously have your welcome email, product suggestions, but how deep do you go? And then you have your, you want to get people back into your 24-hour loop. But if you're just setting this up the first time and then you're setting up your acquisition, then you're setting up your retention, how deep do you go?
Yeah, so we go deep in two ways. And one way is based on the product, and the other way is based on the actual interaction with the customer. So let me talk about the product first. So our stores tend to sell a bunch of general items. So there'll be clothing for nurses, and there'll also be things for dog lovers, and there'll be jewelry for grandmothers, etc. So that means that if somebody bought something because they're a dog lover, you want to make sure that they get content that's relevant to the thing that they bought. So what we set it up as is based on whatever tags that you first bought from. So if you bought something because you love dogs, you should actually see more items and more products related to dogs. Cool. And what we'd also are planning to add is the ability to actually customize the messages. So if somebody bought a dog product, then you want to make sure that the tone of the voice is
similar to a dog lover. You could read the comments on your ads, and you could literally duplicate the tone of the people. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Doing, yeah. So that's one thing. So that's tailoring your flows based on the product that the customer purchased. Now the second thing is based on the individual interaction that you're trying to get. And customers generally don't like just brands sending them marketing messages all the time, but there's actually a ton of other kinds of messages that aren't marketing messages, but are actually important interactions. So one thing that we found to be really successful is soliciting product reviews from Messenger.
Ooh,
So
it's really good. It's a really good idea.
Yeah, there's lots of ways there's tons of product review apps on Shopify and just generally ways to collect product reviews. And we all know that once you have product reviews and actual pictures and testimonials from happy customers, that really helps drive up your conversion rates, because you can use those in SEO, you can use those in ads, you can use those on your product page, on your product landing page. So that's a huge opportunity to actually collect more of these testimonials. So one of the sequences that we're really big fans of is getting product reviews from ShopMessage. So after somebody makes a purchase, ShopMessage is aware of when the user received the item, because all that shipping information is there in Shopify.
Yeah.
And after that, they can send a message to the customer asking them if they liked the product. And if they liked it, like let them make a review. Or if they didn't like it, tell us what's wrong with it. Maybe let's try to correct it.
So there's transactional. The different things you could do on the back end of the retention flows are obviously transactional. I like this product. You might like this product. There's obviously the product review. Then there's just the way of staying in touch with the customer. What I was always thinking about the way to use this is for product research. You're thinking about coming out with a new product. Maybe you're going to ask maybe a split set of questions. Is this, upload an image? Do you like this shirt? Do you not like this shirt? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Like kind of
those are great.
Research.
Those are great scenarios. So things like if you're trying to launch a new product, getting people to vote on your product is really important. And with Messenger, you get instant feedback from actual customers, and you can do it in a really fun way too, with much higher response rates than what you would get in email.
And also maybe like a contest. I'm already visualizing, having a contest or some form of a sweepstakes. Enter in, do you want to be a part of a sweepstakes? Yes. All you do is press thumbs up or something.
Yep.
You're automatically entered into a sweepstakes, and now people are engaging. I think it's a lot more personalized than I guess that's my excitement. It feels like it's a lot more personalized than email.
Absolutely. And just to give another flavor for how Messenger, how rich and complex you can get Messenger interactions to be, is you can customize whatever you want inside of a web view. So now on Shopify, you're seeing a lot of these apps that are giving you a discount via a spinning wheel or a scratcher that you have to get out. And what we're seeing is actually that is a really fun interaction from within Messenger. You can actually send somebody a message within Messenger and say, hey, scratch this off for your discount. They click a button.
Wow.
There's a little web view that opens up, and you can use your thumb to just scratch that off and get your discount right there. And that's just a really fun kind of gamified interaction that happens within Messenger that can get your customers to keep coming back and be excited for whatever content you're showing.
Do you have any apps or anything, or do you have any built-in plugins to gamify that experience, or is that kind of what's kind of behind the curtain of coming?
That's all behind the curtain. That's all coming. That's on our roadmap. We've really been surprised by how the market has reacted to ShopMessage and how customers have just jumped on it, how much it's just done for their cart recovery, and we're getting so many ideas for other products to add. So we're just going down the list and releasing these one by one, making sure that we're going to enable all sorts of rich interactions.
Dude, this is amazing. This is probably one of the coolest tools I ever had on the podcast. And I just want to thank you for taking your time out of the day to speak to us, to speak to our audience. And, I'm already thinking of ideas on how to optimize some of our campaigns around abandoned carts or, acquisition, retention. I mean, it's the future, and I think getting on it early is the next big thing. Before we wrap things up, is there any other thoughts of the future of Messenger? Any other ways to leverage your app that you want to share, or did you kind of just throw everything out there? I mean, I'll let you kind of take it away and share the last thoughts.
I'll say one more thing, which is what's most important right now is to make sure that you get on the Messenger platform, and ShopMessage is in our opinion, the best way to do that. But it's really important to start collecting your opt-ins now and start really tracking customer activity. And that's important because as we roll out more features, things like flows and sequences, you want to be able to send to all of the customers who've come to your site even in the past. So that is really important, because if you just wait for another few months or another year to get on Messenger, at that point you won't be able to go and message all your customers from the past. So that's the first word of advice. And I'll say number two is for anyone who's interested, it takes 5 minutes to set up ShopMessage. There's It's free for the first 2 weeks, so there's no risk. But if anybody wants any customizations, the way we work with big brands is get in touch with us, and we do a personalized onboarding. We dedicate an account manager and part of our engineering staff to make sure that everything is perfect. So we make sure we take care of all of our clients, and we provide the best customer service that we can.
Arjun, can you share? I mean, you don't have to, but if you want, feel free to share your contact information. If any of our users have questions, or if they want to talk about the enterprise level version, I mean, feel free to share your information if needed.
Sure. So the best way to contact us is to go to shopmessage.me, and you can send me an email if you like. My email address is arjun@shopmessage.me. So that's ARJUN @shopmessage.me.
Cool. Well, this has been amazing. I just want to thank you again for coming on our podcast, and really, I've learned a lot. I mean, I'm always the one who I do this selfishly say I learned so much from spending a half hour with you, and I look forward to playing around with ShopMessage. I'm going to have a lot of questions for you, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners will as well. So thanks again,
Absolutely.
Arjun.
Contact me anytime. I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Steve.
Cool. Yep. Thanks, guys. Another episode of the books of the Spend 10K a Day podcast. I'm Steve Weiss, Steve at mute6.com, and we will be in touch shortly. Thanks again.